Welcome all. I'm glad you're here. Hope you'll have a very fruitful 2 days. What I'd like to do now, basically, is giving you a little bit of like behind-the-scenes thoughts that we put in when we build our program. So, basically, as Gemma said, we got a mission which is quite big. Let's try to change the world and replace oil mainly in transportation, but that's what the main concern is. And our thinking process was how we, as a small country with limited resources, can make a major change. And what we end up is 3 goals. And what I'd like to do now is basically explain you a little bit about how we end up with these goals. I spoke last year in more details about our plans to reach the 60% level. I will run quickly about this now, just for those of you who missed it last year. Well, basically what we've realized that there are many available solutions at the moment with economic viability. And what we probably see in the future is that there are no gold standard. So although today we are using only one type of fuel, in the future there are good reasons to believe that we will see more than that. In addition, there's as been said before, there's a local bias. Some countries has reservoirs of natural gas, some has other industries. Brazil use ethanol because they have a very low price of sugar, etc., etc. So the outcome of this thought was the fact that we can actually implement some of these technologies at the moment, and we need those quick wins in order to start do something that will eventually bring us to hopefully the situation where we can actually have a diverse market. So we put some basic assumptions. First of all, that we have to have economic solutions. Subsidies can take you up to a certain point, but we saw what's happened to the solar market. Once the government decided to drop off, suddenly the entire market collapsed. We also have, as a government, it is not our decision to pick up the winner. We need the market to decide, the private sector to decide on that. And it's our job to secure, to basically give the market the infrastructure, whether it's the physical infrastructure or the regulation, everything around it. And of course, we have to provide equal opportunities. So when we ask ourselves, what was the problem? Why other countries didn't do it? And what are the barriers for change? We have realized that there are several barriers for change that we can actually measure in a way. So there's obviously a problem of the total cost of ownership, the amount of vehicles that are available, the infrastructure costs, etc. So we put up some kind of what we call index, acceptability index, if you like. This index is basically saying one thing. Let's try to measure how much it's going to cost, or how much it's going to be, what are the easiest way for each one of these technologies to penetrate the market. And what we have done, again, looking at the different technologies, you also have to look at the transportation market as a subsectors of different industries. So what we have done is we build a matrix which have all the different type of technologies which are available at the moment, whether it's natural gas, methanol, electric, or bio. And obviously, you can do that for more technologies to come. And we also split the transportation market to subsectors, because obviously there are different needs and different solutions that this market needs. And what we have done here is try to kind of sum up the index and see which one of these technology will be relevant for each one of these subsectors. And we end up with this kind of matrix which gives us kind of a sense, okay? What will make sense for, let's just talk for an example about the CNG, which makes a lot of sense because it's very cheap, makes a lot of sense for heavy-duty users, but since you still need an infrastructure, usually the heavy-duty users, whether it's a bus fleet or others, they don't need a lot of refueling stations. They usually refuel in one or two areas. So the cost of the infrastructure won't be that high in one hand. On the other hand, because they're heavy user, the extra cost of the vehicle, the return on it will be quite quickly. So there's a good chance that if we'll provide them the optionality, they will use CNG. Same goes with other solution, like methanol that was discussed here is a very good solution for private, again, because we can actually use the current infrastructure, and even the same type of cars, they only need small modification to work on methanol. And that goes for every other technology that we've checked. And then what we have done is we looked at the market itself. And again, you don't have to look at all the numbers here, but just look at these two numbers. What you see here is that basically something like 3.5% of the vehicle, in this case in Israel, but the numbers are pretty accurate all across the world, they consume about 24% of the fuel. So it's not like we have to replace 60% of the vehicle in order to reach 60% goal. We have to replace the right vehicles that will bring us there. And this is just one example. And obviously, we have done this analysis thoroughly to all the different subsectors, and we end up with this goal, which turned out to be a government resolution. And now we are just in the first phase, which we're basically finalizing the regulation. And I think the beginning of next year, we'll start to see here CNG and other technology emerging. This is the plan that we basically come up with, which obviously combines all this data together and hopefully will bring us to our goal within 10, 11 years. One good thing that came out of this analysis was the fact that we realized that we can actually make money to the country, which obviously makes it helps. When you come to the government, you say, not only I'm going to replace the fuel, but the country will make money out of it. That helps a lot, especially when you talk to other ministries like Ministry of Finance, and which they try to see everything from the money side. And that's obviously helps us a lot. And so this program is up and running, and it's just our job now to basically facilitate everything. Now, the other part of what I like to do now is to explain you a little bit more about the thinking process of our second goal, which is how we can foster innovation. And the first thing we have done is, Nobi talked about the fact that the guy from BMW talked about I call it linear and nonlinear, whether it's innovation and revolution. We need to find ways to think in what we call a nonlinear way. So it's a small country here. We don't have enough resources to compete big countries like the States or China or Germany, but we do have some capability that we can leverage. The first thing we have done is look back at the history of the history of a startup nation, if you like. So we looked back at other industries and other way that innovation was done over the last, let's say, 50, 60 years. And obviously, most of it came out of necessity, whether it's water, defense, ICT, etc. Only in the last 20 years, we see some flourishing of new technologies that not necessarily have the end client here in Israel. So this is basically our challenge. And what we try to do out of that is come up with a thinking process, what are the principles for us to build I would say, a nonlinear innovation process. And we put up a few principles that we saw that actually works very well in other cases here in Israel. And the first one is obviously the focus. We need to focus. We need to know exactly what we want, and we need to give the ecosystem, I would call it, the tools to support it, whether they are financial tools, whether they are regulatory tools, whether just linked to the right persons, whether it's knowledge, everything that will enable the ecosystem, the private sector, to foster and come up with new ideas. The second part is how we can leverage what we already have in this country. And we have a small country. Sometimes it's not for good, but sometimes it's very good. In Israel, we say that if you know the rule of 6 degrees of separation, Israel is probably 1 or 1.5. Sometimes it's good because information moves fast, and you can see more and more people coming, and we actually saw it happening to learn because they heard from a friend or whatever. Second thing is the fact that there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of data, a lot of experience in other areas that we think we can basically bring to this what called new area. And the third part is that we need to have like a fresh thinking. Because again, we won't be able to compete on budgets and on the amount of professors that you can find anywhere else. So a couple of our tools are actually focusing on trying to let people work together, academia and industry, and innovators in academia, et cetera, et cetera. And that, now I'm going to show you the innovation process that we have done. So we have all these tools. As I said, some of them are financial, some of them are regulatory, some of them are just bringing knowledge to the community. And instead of having like a linear process of innovation, which usually goes in, I would say in most cases, we have done what I call shake and steer. We are trying to bring everybody together, and they need to talk. Once they talk, some good thing can happen. And this is like maybe the essence of what we try to do here. Trying to have a fresh thinking by bringing people from different disciplines to talk and to work together. And for those of you who will be here tomorrow, among the presentations that you will see of new startups, you will see one presentation of a group that actually do exactly that. These are a group of companies and startups and a professor from the academia working together on one project. And we saw great success on that. Now, how you know that you do something right? You know that because suddenly you see newcomers. You see more professors coming to this area. You see more industries or relevant industries that decided to emerge and try to learn more about this new industry that's coming. And you see more and more multinational coming over. And we see that over the last year or so, year and a half or so. And for us, that signals us that we probably do something right here. Now, this is just one example of how we do that. We, together with the University of Tel Aviv, initiated a new institute for smart transportation. And this institute is unique because, first of all, it's multidisciplinary. Second of all, it's national, so you can have all professors from all over the world and from Israel come to do research. And we also have partnership with the industry, which is important. And the last part, which again, you're going to see tomorrow, the end of the process, we open an accelerator in this unique institute. This accelerator will host 10 entrepreneurs every year with the people who will be chosen tomorrow by a panel. And these guys will have the chance for 4 or 5 months, not only to get money from us, but to get a lot of other resources that are very relevant for them, whether it's experts that will help them out, business people, other people that will basically help them come up with the decision whether or not their business is worthwhile to go. Now, I want to focus a little bit about local entrepreneurship. We got a lot of people, a lot of delegations coming to Israel, and almost every month I got the same question: how you guys are doing it? The truth is, we don't know. But still, when I try to kind of crystallize what the Israeli entrepreneur is, I put a lot of thought about it. This is the picture I envision. You got a guy who's willing to jump into the pool before he even checked the level of the water. That's an average entrepreneurs in Israel. And what you see is the learning process is very quickly. People are moving very quickly from one entrepreneurship to another, from one company to another. Never bother thinking about they fail or their failure. They just move on. So what we have done is we put the entrepreneur in the center, and we provide it with an ecosystem, a lot of tools, a lot of support. And again, money is only one part of it. You need knowledge. You need the ability to do pilots. You need other people in this community to work together that will enable those guys to learn and to move from one failure to another. And once they fail once or twice, they become experts. And this is the only way to do it. So we established, together with a very successful non-profit organization in Israel, we established this community called EcoMotion. What you see outside is some of the fruits of this EcoMotion, which is basically a community of entrepreneurs. And we are trying to provide them everything around it that will enable them to basically understand the world that they are trying to face and what are the challenges they are facing. Now, I want to show you a 90-second movie about our last event. We have like a yearly event, what we call unconference event for these entrepreneurs. This event has about 400 entrepreneurs with about maybe 100 startups presenting themselves and trying to learn and get some kind of contacts, work together with others. This is the movie. As you can see, not all of it relates to alternative fuels. But the important part is that they are in our world now. And when they decided to move on, there's a good chance that they will move on in the same area that we are looking for. Now, this is the outcome of this entrepreneurship community that we have, together with other activities that we do. We've started about 2.5 years ago, less than 3 years ago, with insignificant amount of people working in this area. We now have a huge amount of people involved, about 200 startups and companies. And what we see is that the idea is that these people can make it, and we already have a couple of success, brings more and more people into this world. And that's it. Thank you very much.